Nice. What a great one. Yeah. Well, even though it's a different kind of calendar year, it's always good to have these moments in time when we can think about what we're doing, be more intentional. It's humbling to me, of course, to speak here because everyone in the room is my senior and superior in every imaginable way. So I'm humbled to get a chance to reflect with you. Most of my life I spent as a teacher, traveling and speaking to different groups. And one of the interesting things that would happen occasionally is kids would draw pictures of the speaker. I guess it was a way to kind of keep them attentive during presentation. So sometimes they would come up and share a picture and have a little thought bubble, maybe of what they heard me say that was significant to them or that they remembered. So for example, I was speaking about different well springs of worship in our spiritual life. And so this little boy had drawn a picture of me saying that. But lest I get puffed up, a couple weeks later when I was in Singapore speaking, a little girl brought a picture up to me of me speaking, and this is what it has me saying. So I don't know if you can read what's in the thought bubble, but it's blah, blah, blah. So I hope tonight you're going to get more than blah, blah, blah from me, that you'll be able to take away something a little bit more meaningful. Yeah, she did good, huh? I probably had more of a beard back then. As always in our tradition and philosophy, we reflect upon our teachers before we teach, and in gratitude and asking for their mercy, because we are in a lineage of merciful teachers. So whoever your teachers may be, please hold them in your heart, and we can pray this prayer together. Om Jnana Timaranda Shakana Jana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. And together, I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master has opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Not long after moving to Tucson, I went out to the Sonoran Desert in the east of the city to Coronado National Forest and near Sabino Canyon. And one of the first lessons I learned from our ranger, Diane Taylor, who was my desert guru for the day, was that everything in the desert is trying to kill you. It's designed to kill you, right? So from the Arizona scorpion to the diamondback rattlesnake to the Gila monster to the Africanized honeybees that we have here to painful desert centipedes that can bite you. And then unfortunately, some of you are probably too familiar with the Sonoran desert toad, which causes hallucinations and also can cause some serious medical issues. And not to mention the cats that are out in the wilderness here, right? Recently, I don't know if you heard of a woman in Colorado was killed by a group of mountain lions just recently. Why she's talking back to me so much. So many things are there to kill us, but it's a bit of hyperbole. What she was really trying to communicate to us is as you're walking through the desert, be mindful, be attentive, pay attention to your surroundings, because there are many things that can harm you as you move through this space. But during that time I spent with her, she also spoke to me about the many lessons we can learn when we're in the desert from this ecosystem that we're living in here. Plants, animals, the whole ecology has lessons that can communicate to us. And what surprised me most about what she shared that day was that this valley has not been empty. That actually this area, which seems so severe in its weather, is one of the most archaeologically densely populated regions in North America. That is, there's evidence of people somehow surviving here for many, many generations. So long before the settlers came, there were people here who understood the desert, who were connected to its rhythms and what it would produce and how it could help them survive. And so she celebrated the sense of connectedness they had with the desert. I was just reading the other day at the Tucson Botanical Gardens that the indigenous people would pray to the yucca plant just when they would take the leaves off. They would never kill a plant, but they would take the leaves off in order to weave a basket. And they would ask for forgiveness from the yucca plant that they were removing the leaves from. And I thought that was quite beautiful. So many of those same principles are praised in our philosophy of being connected, to what is around us. And two major ideas kind of emerged for me from this, and that's the importance of having wisdom-laden gurus when you're traveling in dangerous places, like Ranger Taylor was to me, and that how nature itself can be a kind of guru for us, because it's not just deserts that are dangerous. We are living in a material world, which is incredibly dangerous place to be. There's, of course, a famous verse we all know from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Padam Padam Yad Vi Padam. What does that mean?
Danger.
Yeah, danger at every step that you take. There's something there that can harm you. And although it's a difficult kind of ecosystem that we live in, there can still be lessons there, even if they're painful lessons from our gurus, which sometimes we can have. If you've ever walked in this desert, even when you watch your step, there's these kind of jumping cactuses or things that just, if they barely brush you, they take root. So let's take a moment and just talk a little bit about guru before we talk about nature as guru. Guru, of course, has become a loan word in the West. We have many words that find their way into our language that have origins in other languages. I'm just going to throw her over here because she keeps thinking I'm asking her for something. So like garage, for example, is a loan word from French that's made its way into the English language. So guru is one of those words that's now commonly used and abused in our culture. So if you look around in our culture today, there are financial gurus, there are fitness gurus, there are technology gurus, social media gurus, Bitcoin gurus, and it's become commonplace for people to speak about gurus. It's even been the subject of comedies. You might remember the Love Guru from back in the 90s. Or if you have any of the streaming services, some of the most popular content on streaming media is fallen gurus or spiritual leaders that have harmed or hurt others. So we seem to be very fascinated with it in our culture.
It's a great movie.
Is it? I've never seen it. So I have a question for you, and that's who are some of the gurus that you have had in your life? It doesn't have to necessarily be spiritual, but we are going to focus on the spiritual. But who are some of the teachers that were pivotal in maybe your professional life or your spiritual life that brought you to where you are today that you wanted to share with us?
Definitely my David G, who was my meditation teacher for 10 years. He taught me everything I know.
Wow.
Meditation, how to teach it, how to ground a business with it.
Nice. David G.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought you just added the G to his name.
No, that's
Nice.
David G.
Sweet.
David G. David G. David.
David G. I thought it was David G.
David.
David G.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes people come here and they say, I'm looking for that guy Dave.
Oh, yeah, Guru Dave, right. Guru named Dave.
Brother Dave.
Yeah. Others, did you have any in the artistic or tattoo world that were stand out to you?
Different mentors throughout my career.
Yeah. Anyone else like to share? Yeah.
No, I feel Mother Sindhamani has been one of the most important people in my life in terms of helping me in so many ways to have a happy life and still remain so.
Nice. Yeah. Mother Sindhamani, she's a guru to many of us, for sure. Any others? Yes.
Guruji.
Oh, Kirtan Yoga. Yeah, he's also our universal guru here in so many ways. Yeah.
My dad and my stepdad.
Your
My parents.
parents. Yeah. Yeah, they can be huge gurus in our life if we're lucky.
My grandmother.
Oh, grandma. Yep. I identify with that one. Beloved grandmother. Oh, your husband. Yeah. So nice. Yeah. So many. Recently, one of my early gurus died. His name was Don Aslett. You probably never heard of him. But he was the dean of clean. He took something that no one wants to do and everyone hates to do, and he made it fun, and that's cleaning. So he started a cleaning business, and then he started writing books about how to clean your house faster and more efficiently and effectively. And he went on Oprah Winfrey, and he just happened to be my neighbor, about a 10-minute bike ride from my house, and he was my scoutmaster. And he was an amazing speaker, and so he would take me on trips with him as he would speak around the country. And I was a budding cartoonist at the time, and he wrote over 40 books that sold millions of copies on cleaning. And he actually paid to fly me to California once to sit with a cartoonist all day and see what life was like as a cartoonist. So he died when he was 89 just recently. And I just think back of like all of those things he didn't have to do. I had such an unstable home life with 2 alcoholic fathers, and he was such like this grounding person in my life. In so many ways, he was incredibly generous. So I think we can all think of so many people like that in our life that have been our sustaining gurus and shaping us in our spiritual life. So let's talk about the word guru for a moment. I know this is a topic we talk about a lot, and I'm preaching to the choir. But, and there's many ways you can interpret this word. I remember Sureshwar Prabhu a couple months ago spoke about a way of thinking about guru that I hadn't heard before. But what's the most traditional definition, or what's the Sanskrit root behind guru? What does it typically connote?
2 things that usually come with it. One is heavy, one is dark and light.
Yeah, and I think Sureshwar touched on the latter. I've always kind of just heard the heavy part. It's something that's heavy. A bee whose body is heavy with nectar or pollen is known as Guru Patala, one who holds a lot of nectar as he's traveling around. A pregnant woman is heavy with what? Heavy with a child. So that term guru is often used for a woman who's about to have a baby. And someone who's carrying a heavy load around is called Guru Brit, someone who carries something very heavy. And as I was working on this talk, I just found so many amazing photos of like the weight that bees carry in nectar and pollen. Is quite extraordinary. But there's another sense of thinking about that image as well. It's this person has a quality of stability, of immovability, of firmness. Spiritually thinking, they are thoroughly convinced of their philosophy. They're fixed in faith. They're grounded in true knowledge. They're like a rock. And does anyone know what the opposite Sanskrit word is of guru? Oh, very good. Lagu, right.
I only know because of Vedanta, like one side.
Yeah, one side is lighter, right? And one side is heavier. So this is someone that is, easily swayed and moved by the wind. Just like an owl is something that's full of wisdom. Even though hummingbirds are my favorite birds, they're quite light and delicate. A good swift wind could, pick up a hummingbird and carry them away. So a good guru is a heavyweight, not a lightweight. Some of my god siblings may see a hidden reference above. Does anyone
Yeah.
see a hidden reference? What is it?
Saffron.
Champion.
Saffron.
The saffron, yes. But champion, yeah.
Oh, champion.
Yeah, so we want a heavyweight, a guru, a person that's in principle is someone trustworthy, that's stable, right? And guru, of course, Guru Tattva in our tradition is the kind of principle behind the guru, is teaching us that guidance comes to us in many, many forms. All of them, though, are manifestations of the singular mercy and love of Krishna. He's the core behind all of them. And he brings into our life all the gurus that we need at particular times that we need them. So Prabhupada put it really beautifully. He said the principle of guru is 1, Krishna is the original guru, and his mercy flows through the disciplic succession, that chain of bona fide teachers to us. So he's at the core of all the teachers that can come into our life. And there are many categories of guru. We'll just look at a couple as we make our way towards nature or prakriti as guru. So the first is Krishna in the heart, what our scriptures call Adi Guru. He's the first and supreme guru in our tradition. And does anyone know what the term is for that?
Chaitanya Guru.
Yeah, right. He's the Chaitya guru. He's the guru that is with us in the heart. He's situated in the heart, as Bhagavad Gita 15:15 says. I am seated in everyone's heart. And what are some of the other ways we talk about that presence of guru in our life? He's the what? Yeah, super soul, Paramatma. Sometimes there's a term, Antaryami, right? He is this internal guide that is with us, like two birds in a tree. One bird is our soul, and then Paramatma is the other bird. So he's with us, and he's guiding us, and he's arranging, as I mentioned, for all of our external gurus to appear at just the right time. Sometimes people make analogies to that is something like our conscience, intuition in the Judeo-Christian tradition. It's something like what Elijah called the still small voice that spoke to him, the indwelling spirit of God that guides and instructs and comforts us on the spiritual life. So that's a beginning point, the interior guru that of Krishna guiding us. And then there's other gurus that show us the path very early on in our life. And what are those gurus called? Yeah. Huh? Yeah, Vartma Pradarshika. Those gurus that are there leading us on the path, right? They're showing us the way, they're directing us. And mostly spiritually speaking, in terms of our context tonight, and many of you have mentioned that persons who served as gurus for you in this capacity, Mother Sandamini, our parents, our grandmother, was she a spiritual
She was very
guide for you?
spiritual.
Yeah. I think you've spoken about her before, I recall, right?
She would always teach me to do the Toshi worship.
Nice.
Without fail.
Yeah. Yeah, my grandmother similarly was a very committed follower of Jesus, and she was my primary example growing up of devotion and spiritual discipline. And many of us who grew up in Christian traditions, at least myself, I still consider Jesus an important path-showing guru for me in my spiritual life. I still pray to Jesus. I never had to walk away from Jesus. I just am able to see that main guru in my life in a broader context. And then as we grow in the spiritual life, we're also given gurus who can instruct us and educate us about the spiritual life. And what do we call these kind of gurus? Yeah, shiksha, or instructing gurus in our life. So they help us with our scriptural understanding. They give us personal guidance. And how many of those can we have? Yeah, unlimited numbers, right? Krishna. And if you have a lot of them, that's a good sign, because it means that we're being guided by many, many wise people. And we're so extraordinarily blessed that we're alive during the time that Prabhupada's disciples are still with us. And so we have so many of them who can give us a guidance in the spiritual path. Some of them we might walk with for just a few moments, and then others will be with us for a long time on our spiritual journey. So this is also a time to just reflect and thank Krishna for the way he manifests himself in these many, many types of gurus. And then as we think about our movement in particular, the teacher who's what we call the preeminent Shiksha guru is who? Of course, Srila Prabhupada, right? You just gave a whole weekend lecture on this, right? Prabhupada is the supreme Shiksha guru for us. That's why we have pictures of him in all of our spaces. We have a murti of him in all of our temples. And among our instructing or Shiksha gurus, the measure of how well they're doing is, are they pointing us to Srila Prabhupada? Are they encouraging us to read his books, to listen to his words on a regular basis? They're pointing us to him. And as we go on to take the spiritual life more seriously and make deeper commitments, we can receive another kind of guru, which is, Diksha guru or initiating guru. And they are bringing us into a particular lineage. They're giving us sacred mantras. They're taking responsibility for our spiritual life and growth. And this relationship isn't temporary or just for a moment. It's not only lifelong, it's lifetime after lifetime, sometimes long, that this person commits to be with us and to guide us in the spiritual life. It's a deeply personal relationship that we can have with our Diksha guru. It's a covenant of mutual trust. And it said in our scriptures in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that since one cannot visually experience the presence of the super soul, he appears before us as a liberated devotee. Such a spiritual master is none other than Krishna himself. So that's pretty extraordinary that we live in a lineage that we can receive this manifestation of Krishna in our life, visibly present to us and speaking to us. He is the bearer of that torchlight of knowledge that's lighting the way and burning up our sins and purifying us in our spiritual journey. One of my favorite quotes along this line is from a purport by Srila Prabhupada from Srimad Bhagavatam. In fact, we just covered this not so many weeks ago. In the first canto in the 7th chapter, verse 22, Prabhupada says, "The spiritual master is the mercy representative of the Lord. Therefore, a person burning in the flames of material existence may receive the rains of mercy of the Lord through the transparent medium of the self-realized spiritual master. The spiritual master, by his words, can penetrate into the heart of the suffering person and inject knowledge transcendental, which alone can extinguish the fires of this material existence." So what a gift if we have this kind of a guide and mentor in our life, and this type of guru in our life. And all this, of course, is to give us a broader context for talking about nature as a kind of guru for us. What that Ranger Taylor was communicating to me is also part of our philosophy and our tradition. The Prakriti, or this created world, or Jagat, the world, can become a kind of shiksha guru, a guide for us along the spiritual journey, that if we have the eyes to see, we can see all around us lessons in this created world that can help us along the way. And this isn't unique to us. This is in almost every spiritual tradition that we can learn from nature. If you go back to one of the great Torah Psalms in the Jewish Psalter, Psalm 19, it says, "The heavens declare the glory of God. The expanse proclaims the work of his hands. Day after day, they pour out speech. Night after night, they communicate knowledge." St. Ambrose, one of the early Christian fathers, who was himself the guru of another great person. Does anyone know who St. Ambrose was? The guru of St. Augustine, who all of you have probably heard of. His teacher was St. Ambrose. And he said the spiritual person has before him two books, the book of sacred scripture and the book of nature. And from those two, we can be guided in the spiritual life. I have a deep connection to this person. Does anyone recognize him, even though he's not named? We don't know what he looked like. Yeah, the magpie is the giveaway, I guess. St. Francis of Assisi. And this year, 2026, we're celebrating the 800th anniversary of the disappearance of St. Francis of Assisi in 1226, October 4th. So I was a lay Franciscan in the Catholic tradition, and really resonated with so many parts of his life, but in many ways his connectedness to creation. He was one of these people that Prabhupada, when hearing part of his Canticle of Creation, said that he was God conscious, right? That he understood how the world is deeply connected to us, and that we are connected to all the living entities.
Prabhupada said, "This is real God consciousness."
Yes, this is real God consciousness, yeah. And that was at a Franciscan monastery in Australia. Dasa, who leads founded the temple in Spanish Fork, arranged that meeting. And so there's many, many stories. You see him, that's why you see him in a lot of garden statuary with a little bird, because Francis would preach to birds and fishes and anyone who would listen to him. And that mood and message resonated with me. It's the most famous Italian poem in Italian language is his Canticle of Creation, from which we get the title of the movie that devotees love from the 1970s. Does anyone remember that movie about Francis? Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon, yeah.
Watched that movie on my birthday.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's great. Devotees especially love it because it reflects the period of the 60s and 70s as much as it does St. Francis's life. And of course, as I became part of this Krishna consciousness movement, I heard stories that were very similar to the stories of St. Francis of Assisi, which are the stories of the travels of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as he would travel through jungles. And he'd go into these dark, dangerous jungles that were full of tigers and poisonous snakes. And I was reading the other day that they estimate that thousands of people a year died during that time from just tigers, being eaten by tigers. Now I think it's down to like, 60 or 80 people a year eaten by tigers in India. But it was much more common than in his time. And so he went into this dangerous wilderness and he started chanting the names of God. And what happened? Yeah, all the animals started to chant. Soon the deer began to chant and the tigers began to chant. And that what happened with the deer and the tigers also? Yeah, they started like dancing together. So all the enmity that was in this world, all the danger was in this world was dissolved by the holy names. And the elephants started to cry tears upon the hearing of the holy name. So if animals can become transformed when touched by the name, this Sankirtan, public chanting of the holy name, what excuse do we have? My goodness. And we'll come back to that a little bit later. So Lord Chaitanya manifested this connectedness and the power of the holy name in this. So we see the idea of nature as a teacher in many parts of our philosophy, and many analogies are used both in our scriptures and the Gita and by Srila Prabhupada about how nature teaches us. Can you think of some of those that are really often used?
Canto.
Yeah, here's a clue of just a couple basic ones, but we're getting to the 11th canto. Yeah. And what lessons does the tree have for us for the spiritual life? Yeah, tolerance with all the seasons, all the abuse that they suffer. What else do they teach us? Yeah, it's a model of service for us. So it's feeding us, it's nourishing us. What else is it doing to these animals that are gathered? Offering shelter and shade. And even after it dies, does it stop giving when it dies? No. Now, what else do we get from the tree? So many things, yeah. Wood for firewood, for paper, so many other useful elements. Tools can be made from her. So this analogy is very common in our philosophy to talk about this. What would this one be referencing? I know you live in Tucson, so you don't know what that green stuff is. That's called grass for other parts of the world. And can it teach us also? Yeah, the humility, right? Grass. Who stops and thanks God for grass? Very rarely, right? We take advantage. What's that? Walt Whitman, yeah. I remember after living here for a few months and then going down to Sierra Vista to the library, taking my shoes off and stepping in the grass there, because I just remember as a kid how nice it felt to step in cooling grass. So yeah, it's unappreciated, it's ignored, it's stepped on, it endures heat and cold and rain without any complaint. So in the Shikshastakam, Lord Chaitanya speaks about many of these kind of analogies of nature also, to be tolerant as the tree and humble like the grass. Prabhupada very frequently on his morning walks would call upon nature as a teacher for us, right? He would point out things. And I was reading the other day how he saw walking on the beach in Mumbai, stray dogs and pet dogs. And he said, just as the stray dog is in a constant state of anxiety and fear and need, look how different it is from this pet dog who has no anxiety anymore. He's completely provided for by his master. And what analogy do you think Prabhupada would draw from the difference between a pet dog and a stray dog for his disciples?
Become Krishna's dog.
Yeah, take shelter of Krishna. And the one who has a master is free of anxiety and suffering. So he applied it to his role and his relationship with each one of them, right? He said that the dog is sanatha, is protected versus anatha. It's not an orphan. And so similarly, you are protected. You have a master now, Krishna, and of course a spiritual master. One day while walking, he took his cane and he pointed to piles of bird dung on the ground. And he asked his disciples, what does this mean? And of course, the disciples were always thinking there must be some like deep esoteric meaning, like And so the one this young disciple he asked, it's like looking at it, trying to find like, is there a pattern there? Is there 108 drops of dung? You know, what might it be that Srila Prabhupada is, that I'm supposed to learn from this pile of dung underneath this particular branch of the tree?
Birds are attached to the place.
Very good. Yeah, exactly. He said, yeah, these birds, they've lived in the same tree for more, often the same branch for more than 2 weeks. Even the birds are attached to their apartments. So we're similarly attached. But you could also say positively, the birds are wise enough to know where they can find safe shelter, right? And association of other birds. One of my Shiksha gurus is Vaisheshika Prabhu. And a few years ago, I was with him and his equally empowered wife, Nirakula, for a day at their home in Burlingame. And as part of that afternoon with them, we went on a walk. He loves to go on like choppa walks. And all along that walk, similar to Srila Prabhupada, he was just pointing out things, you know, bees and birds. And he's got a beautiful like backyard garden that's fruit for so many of his stories and analogies about bees and birds. Or pointing out a young guy playing basketball on the basketball court and what he's learning from that young man about that he's there every day and the discipline to do that. So he was really a powerful reminder of this principle as well, of being attentive to the circumstances around you and learning those lessons. He recently wrote a book called The Four Questions, and there's a question in that book related to this idea. Does anyone know which of the four?
What can I learn?
Yeah, what is the lesson here? What is the lesson for me? So moving through life with that idea of finding lessons in all the things that we're experiencing and going through in our life. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, this is probably what you're alluding to, in the 11th canto, there's a story, a really popular story about the Avadhuta Brahmana, this yogi who's living in the forest, Dattatreya. And Avadhuta means, sometimes I've heard different translations, but it literally means shaken off. So it's a person who's shaken off their attachment to possessions, to social roles and social norms and ego, while remaining at the same time really deeply perceptive to their surroundings. But they come across to the general world as someone kind of crazy, right? In Christian tradition, especially in the Orthodox tradition, they're called holy fools. They appear to be this just completely whacked out person, but they're really wise, and wise people will go seek knowledge from them. So this King Yadu, is coming along in the forest, and he encounters this Avadhuta Brahmana in the forest. And he's amazed to find such an enlightened being there. And so he asks him, how did you become so wise? And the Avadhuta said, well, because I have 24 gurus. And the king looked around and said, I don't see anybody else here, not to speak of gurus, but to speak of gurus. And then the yogi explained that nature itself provided him all the wisdom that he needed. All the lessons he had learned was through his focused observation of nature. They were the 24 gurus. And we can't explore those 24 gurus tonight because of time, but I really encourage you to explore that. It's in the 11th canto, and it's the 7th, beginning in the 7th chapter, and I think it goes all the way through chapter 9, right? That discussion with King Yadu. And you can hear all of his lessons from these 24 gurus. As I was making this presentation, I thought, well, AI can help me create a really beautiful image of the 24 gurus, the Dattatreya. So I plugged in, the information and where the verses were. And I say this tonight because it's good for us to be reminded of artificial unintelligence in artificial intelligence, that it regularly makes mistakes and it's not to be trusted. It's not a guru you want to depend on all the time, because it failed miserably in replicating these 24 gurus. So to just remind us to be cautious about this. So it generated a big, beautiful image for me, and I got really excited till I started looking at the image closely. And I'll give you just a couple of its interesting examples. There's water. See that image of water? And then I thought, well, maybe it's just the blue in the background. It got mixed up, and it did a picture of a snake. Yeah, so you ever seen a fish that looks like that? These are actual images that it generated from the 24 gurus. Here's another popular one. The moth was the ocean. It got that one mixed up. It put the hawk under the water for some reason. I don't know why it did that. And then this is my favorite one. The Pingala prostitute. It couldn't even get prostitute correctly.
It's teaching us not to believe on this.
Yes, choose your teachers wisely. Exactly.
It's
So
a fish prostitute.
yeah. So be careful. You can find really beautiful charts that people have made of the 24 gurus, and they're worth spending some time meditating. Even though all of these animals aren't in our world, we can still see the wisdom drawn from them. So I thought we could do tonight is just enter into the Sonoran Desert a bit and collectively kind of draw out as we can together what's some wisdom we can draw from the things that are common to us in our natural world living in this part of the United States. So the first, probably the most desperately needed and important element of the world here for everything is what?
Water.
Yeah, everything needs water. And this, of course, is one of the 24 gurus of the Avadhuta Brahmachari as well. And he has a really beautiful reflection on water that I had never thought of. How many like to sit next to a babbling creek of water? There's something about that, right? And now there's machines that generate the sound of a creek to help you go to sleep, or if you've ever camped next to one. I was thinking you must have been close to Oak Creek.
Yeah, I lived on Oak Creek. Like it was, I can walk down my lawn and it was there.
Yeah, it's so nice just to have that water. And Dattatreya said something about it, that he said, water makes a pleasing sound when it is moving. And similarly, when we meet a spiritually advanced person, we hear beautiful words that clarify our own consciousness and purify our hearts. So it was the sound of water for him, which was really interesting. What other lessons can we draw from water for the spiritual life?
Well,
Or whatever you were going to say.
I was just gonna ask what canto and what,
Oh, 11th canto and beginning in the 7th chapter. And I think it's like 2 or 3 chapters long, the conversation.
I think because I took notes on your in the 11th point was Yavajud, which is the
Yeah.
Water never stops, it always keeps flowing, even though it is blocked by sometimes landslide and so many stuff, but it finds its way and continues to
It's very persistent. Yeah. I heard someone say the other day that it's like one of the softest elements, but it can wear down the hardest of rocks, right? A drip of water on a rock. You see that?
Another thing is, like, if you say that moving water never get contaminated, so sadhus, they keep moving and preaching and not attached to one place. They also not get affected by.
Oh, nice. So just like water would become stagnant or dangerous to drink if it was not moving, so a spiritual teacher should always kind of be on the move, or he'll get attached to material life or contaminated. That's a great one. Yeah, that's
classic Bruce Lee. Water becomes the container.
I don't know that one, so sure.
You never heard? Be like water.
Be like water.
He says that water becomes the container. You put water in a cup, it becomes the cup.
Yeah. Water can carry smells and scents, right, into a place. Yeah.
I was trying to think on how to word this, but Prabhupada kind of explains it that, like, no matter what the quality and what water is, it's always a liquid. It may artificially become vapor, it may artificially become a solid like ice, but it's always liquid. So no matter what body the soul's in, no matter what condition it's in, it's always part and parcel of Krishna.
Nice. So it's original kind of form, right? The essence of it, the wetness of it. Yeah.
I can't remember the Greek philosopher's name that said,
Oh.
never step into the same river.
Yeah, it's a
twice.
Heraclitus. Yeah.
Yeah.
You never step into the same water twice, right?
Yeah.
And that the material world is like that. It's ever changing. Yeah. It's a great one.
Water can be influenced by energy too. There's a great dog, I can't remember his name, it's a Japanese doctor.
Yeah, I've seen these videos where they do different vibrations and shapes take form in the water with the different vibrations. Yeah. Yeah. Or words or something, even like words like love or something affected the water. I don't know how water knows English. Yeah. Prabhu.
Another analogy given in the Mahabharata is that when water, when the rainwater comes down, it always finds, it goes down to the ocean.
Yes.
Any water from all the stream, river, they always go down to the ocean. The ocean is the source of all waters. So the soul always has to go to the God
Oh,
as the
nice.
source of the soul.
Yeah. So we might go all different directions, but we'll eventually find our way back to
Just like
source.
fire always goes up, the sun is the source of all fires. So whenever we light fire, fire always goes up, water always goes down.
Very
The
nice.
soul always go to God.
Path of least resistance.
Yeah, path of least resistance. Yeah, yeah. You can see in the United States, like it's not the continental divide, is it? It seems like it's another space where all the rivers flow either east or west from a certain part of the United States. You know, to find that lowest point. Yeah. So many things. Water purifies. It preserves life. It's so beautiful now that we've had these rains to go out into the deserts and see the little flowers and the grass come up. What's the most ubiquitous image in the desert here? What object do we see in our valley, especially? That's yes, the saguaro cactus. Yeah. And what kind of lessons do you think we can draw from these giant cactus? And some of them, of course, I've been told that when they get arms, that means they're about 45 years old. And then, yeah, even the higher they get, you know, they're 70, 80 years old. We have one in our front yard over at Montreux Oasis. They can get huge. What are some lessons you can think about?
They're also like shelter, like there's the desert museum has cactus hotel.
Oh,
And so like lots of birds live there. And they also provide fruits that fall, and like you're saying, like people pray, you know, and that's provided during that season.
yeah. And it's one of the ways people lived, right, in this world is because of the fruits of the cactus. And they make all kinds of things from this now, jellies and stuff. So they create these beautiful flowers, and then these fruits in late May, early June will kind of break open. And there's, I think they said the average cactus will produce something like 150 fruits. And then each one of those has 3,500 seeds in it. So all of the things that first pollinated that cactus, what are the major things that pollinate cactus in our? I was really surprised by this. I knew bees pollinate, but what pollinates our cactus more than any other thing? More than bees? Not squirrels. That's an interesting one. Very nice for Boo. Bats, which really surprised me. Birds, bees, and bats are the bats are the biggest pollinators. Yeah. And then the fruit opens up, and then those same animals, it's just like a giant grocery store in the desert. Those same animals can come and eat those fruits. And as they're chewing on those fruits, pieces can fall on the ground, and coyotes and deer and others can get them. And what's so interesting about the fruits is, where are they on the cactus? They're at the very, very top. So all the spines down below are to preserve them from deer and other things that would eat them immediately, and cows in the desert. So they're up high where they can be pollinated and consumed, but still everyone can benefit from that. And it made me just think about our spiritual fruit. You know, how are we protecting? What are we doing to protect our spiritual fruits and to offer them to others who need them, but while protecting from those who don't appreciate or who could diminish us by consuming all of those fruits. So there's so many ways we can think about it, or as you mentioned, Vanessa, the cactus as shelter. And this was one of the most interesting things I learned out there is how many animals take shelter of the cactus. And that's a huge theme in our spiritual tradition, isn't it? Taking shelter of another. And how birds themselves not only receive shelter from the cactus, but they provide shelter for other kinds of birds. So does anyone know what bird produces the biggest home inside of a saguaro cactus?
Is it the one picture?
No.
I know cactus red.
Yeah, so it's a bigger bird. Which bird could do a really good job of making a big house?
Oh, the woodpecker.
Yes, the woodpecker. So woodpeckers will make these giant houses inside of the cactus, and they only live there for 1 year. And they drill out such a big hole that the cactus creates a scab around the shelter that they build, just like you get a scab on a wound. And that scab forms like a sustainable little house inside of it. And this is what they look like when you pull them out. Ranger Taylor was showing us this. That's what the cactus generates. And so the woodpecker just lives in it for a year, and then it goes away and it makes a new one. But now there's a built home for all the little wrens and other birds who will come to that cactus. So we not only receive shelter from Krishna and our spiritual teachers, but Krishna intends that we also become shelters for others. So many lessons just from a simple thing, you know, that we can meditate upon. Any other thoughts you have about cactus? Yes.
The arms are always raised just like Mahaprabhu.
Oh, very nice. Yeah.
But they're tolerant also.
Well, sometimes they like.
Yeah. Now look at the other picture and the arms go down. What causes the arms to go down?
That's the Mahavishnu.
Yeah. The forearm form. That's a symbol of drought. When there's drought,
Yeah,
they'll drop.
my, growing up, a family friend of ours was in a plane crash on a private plane in a really rural part of Arizona. And the only way he survived was the moisture in the saguaros. They cut them open and chewed on them.
Yeah.
And that was the only way they.
Yeah, you can chew on the flesh because they're preserving all that water from rain season for 12 months or longer sometimes, right? That's really interesting. And certainly that must be how the indigenous people survived, probably slicing off little pieces and sucking the moisture out of the cactus. Yeah.
I was just thinking, since you're on this topic, how the fruit doesn't really belong to the tree or the cactus, it belongs to the ecosystem.
Yeah, it's for someone else. Yeah. Yeah. And so many seeds going out from those animals, and then in their own, you know, dung, they'll spread that plant around the world. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have another.
Sure.
This goes all the way back to Diksha Guru.
Yeah.
You mentioned Srila in Srila Bhagavatam, chapter 7, I think you said. Maybe. I don't know.
Was it about Diksha Guru?
Yeah.
Oh, 1/7/22.
Oh, I think.
Oh yeah, 1:7:22 is about what was the verse that we
The
read?
verse of the rain.
About mercy. Yeah, how the spiritual master is like a transcendental firefighter. Yeah.
1:7.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah, exactly. And we just covered it in class with Kirtaneshwar not long ago. Several other images that we would resonate with because we hear it all the time, right? This one would be what? Yeah, like Janet Jackson, I guess, was reading the Srimad Bhagavatam too, right? That's the way love goes, like a moth to a flame. Yeah, that we can be attracted to the very thing that is killing us, this material world that can be detrimental to us. We have unique animals in our region, right, that we can reflect on in different ways. Anyone know what this? Yeah, the javelina, yeah. I just saw a huge one. In fact, over by not far from your house, a huge one was hit by a car right there on that. I've never seen one this far into the city, but I'm sure they're here.
They're all over this neighborhood.
Yeah, any lessons from the javelina? They're not the most attractive.
It kind of reminds me of
Yeah.
your holiday. They're actually a road animal. Like they're part of the road and.
Yeah, I was in a group.
Yes, very nice. So that was my reflection, association. They can't see very well. So when they travel in packs, they can basically protect one another. They can kind of be watching for predators and finding food. Yeah. So association, they recognize the strength in Sangha, strength in numbers. So they have a kind of collectiveness. And they also eat all the things that other animals won't eat. So they have a kind of tapasya. They undergo certain difficulties in life to survive, and they seem to do it without any complaint. I remember when I first was visiting Phoenix, I walked out of my hotel one night and I heard this clickety, clickety, click, and then a bunch of little clickety clicks, and it was a mother with like 6 or 8 babies behind them. There's some really cute ones out at the Sonoran Museum on the other side of town here
I
too.
did heard the story about King Indra became pig.
King Indra becomes a pig? No, please tell me.
Once he was cursed to become a pig, and later on he was requested to go back to the heavenly planet, and he was asking, do I get stool dresses?
Oh, he was still had the hankerings of his previous body. Interesting. Yeah.
Do I get stool in the heaven?
Yeah. How many of you have ever heard of the 3 sisters in farming techniques by the indigenous people here? And what is that? Do you remember?
Corn, beans, and squash.
Yeah.
And grow together.
So that we learned from the Indians that they had a method. Even in this wilderness, they would cut out channels. You can see this especially down by the missions. What's the big St. Xavier mission? You can see some of what the indigenous people did there. Yeah, so 3 different types of plants, by their association, similar to the javelina, they can help one another. And what does the corn or maize do?
Provides a way for the beans to grow.
Yeah, it provides a trellis or a means for someone else to grow. So it's providing growth. And what else is it going to be offer in the burning heat of the day for the other plants? Can give some shade. Yeah. And the beans do what in that association? Each thing is contributing to that complementary relationship. Yeah, you would probably know. It's more technical.
Nitrogen in the soil.
Yeah, they produce nitrates that nourish the soil, which makes the
Also what mesquite tree.
and mesquite also. Yeah. So the beans and the maize and the what's the third one? Squash. Yeah, benefit from the nitrates that the beans provide. And what do the squash leaves do? They're really big.
Ground cover keeps the water.
Yeah, it keeps moisture low to the ground as there's evaporation. It keeps weeds at bay. It gives shelter to the other plants. So there's some beautiful displays if you ever go to our Tucson Botanical Gardens about this, the lessons we can learn from. Each of us has our roles in helping one another. So each of us brings gifts to our association. So many others. There's the tortoise. We won't talk about that. But what's noticeable about these 3 desert animals? What do they seem to share in common?
Big ears.
Yes,
Oh,
they're the master hearers in the desert here. That's their kind of prominent anatomical feature. And of course, we know in our spiritual tradition that hearing, Shravanam, is the first and foundational limb of our bhakti. And these animals are then perfect metaphors for that. Because like them, when our vision is poor, is clouded or imperfect, it is by hearing, it is by spiritual sound that we can be protected and helped and guided in places of danger. So that sound vibration, especially the little desert mouse, relies upon vibration to find food and to know if something is going to come and eat him. And of course, the deer hears danger, the owl hears in the darkness, and the mouse is always hearing constantly. So we should daily be hearing in our spiritual life. One of the other unusual ones that Dattatreya mentions is the arrow maker. Does anyone know what this analogy is?
Concentration.
Yes. The arrow maker is so concentrated on this task that he doesn't even notice a huge ceremonial parade that is coming through the village. And when he's asked about the king and this great entourage, he was completely aware because he was so fixed on making the arrow. And Srila Prabhupada calls this this one-pointed attention we should have to our spiritual life, that we would be completely focused. It's really the principle behind mindfulness that we hear so much about too, of whatever the task is at hand, we're completely engaged in that task. And he also speaks about the bee and the bee gatherer, that in the spiritual life we can be gathering so many material things and hoarding those things, and then in just a moment, what can happen to everything that we've gathered and put together and kept?
The beekeeper.
Stolen.
Yeah, someone comes and steals it from us, right? So we shouldn't be too attached. And probably the biggest symbol that he gives us in speaking of his 24 gurus about attachments is the story of a commotion that he heard in the air when a Karari hawk had risen up in the air, and he has a mouse in his talons and he's ready to go off to eat it. But he's immediately attacked by 2 larger hawks, and he has to kind of make a decision. If he's going to survive, he has to do what?
let go of them.
He has to let go of that prey, or he's not going to survive. And that's so true of much of our spiritual life. In fact, I've heard one person say one of the greatest spiritual truths is, or parts of the spiritual life, is to learn to what to hang on to and what to let go of. And if we can master that, we're going to grow exponentially in the spiritual life. When I was a young pastor, one of my first jobs was I was sent to a woman in hospice named Mother Shepherd. She was in the last few weeks of her life, and she didn't sleep anymore. So when I would go, I would wake up in the night and she'd be singing these black spiritual songs. A breath bread of heaven. Lead me till I want no more. And I just always loved listening to her sing. And one night she grabbed my hands and said, Minister Smith, learn to hold loosely all that is not eternal. And son, there ain't many things that are eternal. There's just God and his word and his folks. That's all of us. Everything else hold lightly and loosely in this world because it's just passing away. So much wisdom, knowing what to hang on to and what to let go of. And so much of our anxiety and suffering in this material world is because we can't let go of things or people that we're trying to manage and control and cajole, to do what we want them to do. So I consider Mother Shepherd one of my great gurus on my spiritual journey. In all of this, as we walk through the world, every moment is a lesson. Every soul is a teacher for us. Every encounter is an opportunity for us to grow through the scriptures, through our association, through nature. It's been said that everything teaches the one who wants to learn. Everything teaches the one who wants to learn. And if we walk through the world with humility, we will find many, many teachers among us. But in closing, an even deeper penetration to seeing lessons for the spiritual life in nature. It's not only seeing those lessons, but it's seeing Krishna in every living entity. If we don't see him, then creation actually can become a danger, a roadblock for us, and an illusion, like a mirage that can lead us away from our true spiritual source. So famously throughout the Gita, Krishna says again and again, right, that we have to have that equal vision of seeing and appreciating all the living entities around us, but most importantly, seeing Krishna in them. And so I want to close with a couple verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is also in the 11th canto, in the Uttava Gita. So we all know about the Bhagavad Gita, but there's also the Uttava Gita, which is Krishna's conversation with his dear friend. And here Krishna says this, O brilliant Uddhava, one who thus views all living entities with the idea that I am present within each of them, and who by taking shelter of this divine knowledge offers due respect to everyone, is considered actually wise. Such a one sees equally the Brahmins and the outcasts. That's language we recognize from Gita, isn't it? Seen with equal vision. The thief and the charitable promoter of Brahminical culture, the sun and the tiny sparks of fire, the gentle and the cruel. So we see each of them equally. But this is what he says next. It's really amazing. One should offer obeisances before all, even the dogs, outcasts, cows, and asses, falling down upon the ground like a rod. So offering dandavat, all of these, until one has fully developed the ability to see me within all living beings. One must continue to worship me by this process, with the activities of his speech, mind, and body. Indeed, I consider, remember this is Krishna speaking, I consider this process, using one's mind, words, and bodily functions for realizing me within all living beings, to be the best possible method of spiritual enlightenment. So this is no small thing, seeing Krishna in all living entities. And until we can do that continually, that's the process we have to keep coming back to, right? In our speech, in our minds, and in our bodies. I have a dear godbrother who's also a godbrother of many of you, Janava Priya Prabhu. And I love that he shares so many lessons and images of New Mexico landscapes and creation. He's always having this spiritual experience. And he often will put Krishna in those settings. So he has that mood, doesn't he, of putting Krishna at the center, putting Krishna in all of these living entities. And of course, that's what the Gita says. That's Krishna's promise to us. Gita chapter 6, verse 30, it's a verse that many people memorize very early on. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. So if nature teaches us, if nature is giving to us all the time, if nature is offering us lessons, then we must, as good students, express our appreciation back to nature. And the best way we can do that, most important thing we can give back to nature while we're in nature, whether we're on a hike or we're on a walk, is what? What can we give? every living entity when we're out in nature.
Hare
The holy
Krishna,
names.
Hare Krishna, Krishna.
Yeah, ideally prasadam, but that's not always possible. But yes, the holy names. Haridas Thakur said everyone can benefit spiritually by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. When the transcendental vibration of Hare Krishna is sounded, even the trees, animals, and insects benefit. Thus, when one chants the mantra audibly, he actually shows mercy to all living entities. So for the benefit of the bacteria up to the bhaktas in this space, here tonight, let us together loudly chant. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, thank you for your time and attention.
Hare Krishna.
Let's vote.